Good evening, everyone. Camera's a little off here. I'm not sure why this thing is a little crooked. But anyways, good evening, everyone. Another work week. And so today I'm going to talk about a subject, and I won't touch it no more because I'm not really that big of a fan. But it seems to be making a lot of news. And that's the issue with, the Sanders family. We all know about it. The NFL draft just concluded a couple days ago, and it seemed to be, drawing a lot of headlines. Which, to me don't make any sense. But I guess to the sports fans out there, it makes sense. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a humongous sports fan. But nevertheless, so when it comes to the whole thing was about Coach Sanders' son, Shedeur, and the reasoning why he dropped so far down, in this case to the 5th round, when he was projected to go first round. And there were a lot of rumors and a lot of comments made, some anonymously and whatnot, and all these other things. And now I'll admit, I don't agree with Coach Sanders on everything. Obviously, I believe he, at least in his videos, he's very positive. And I like his old school way of doing things. I do like that. I do like that his other son, his oldest, his oldest son, Dion Jr., is doing a great job doing the videos. And I really enjoy his videos when when he's doing like videos with the family, with the kids. At that time, he was dating, I can't remember what's her name. He used to date Babyface. But anyways, they were dating, and I think they were even, I don't know if they were engaged or what. But anyways, I enjoyed seeing the family dynamic and their dynamic as, as a couple. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the kind of the behind the scenes kind of thing. When he would go on his little speaking engagements, and you get to meet all the people that work for him, and I really enjoyed that. And Junior was really good about highlighting that, and I really enjoyed that. Obviously, they broke up, and the daughter left and went to A&M. I believe it's Alabama A&M up in Huntsville. And the boys, they kind of stuck around, and now they're gone, and so the content has changed a little bit. I'm not so much into the football content. I was much more into the family dynamic content, because I watched their reality show when he was married to Pilar. I did watch that back when they were young kids, and I got a kick out of it because you got to see how he, the family dynamic, and I'm not really into reality shows. I kind of enjoyed that show. Obviously, him and Pilar divorced in 2013, I believe it was, and so I really enjoyed that. And so that's the only reason I'd be watching anything is when they were doing the couple dynamic and the family dynamic with his kids. I really enjoyed that. But this thing with Shedeur, I think, this is just my opinion, as usual, I think he brought it upon himself. I think that there were teams, and we know his father said he wasn't going to allow him to go to certain teams, which already messed him up. So the first problem is his dad messed him up first and foremost, because he's like, my son ain't going to these certain teams. He already messed himself up because it's those teams that really needed a quarterback. And And so first and foremost, his dad already messed him over by saying those comments. And then I think he messed himself over by not putting his effort into those interviews, because some of them teams that he was interviewing with, he didn't want to be a part of. And that was mistake number 2. Mistake number 3, again, this is my opinion, I think that watching him on YouTube, I believe he felt he was entitled. I believe because he knew he had the Sanders name, that everything was just going to be rolled out red carpet for him. Well, no, that's not the case, because you're not your father. You know, Coach Prime has earned all his accolades. He's a Hall of Fame football player, a 2-sport player, you know, with a successful analyst career after, you know, his, football and baseball career. You know, he's made money. He's an entrepreneur. You know, and all these things. So stuff is going to be different. Just because you have a good name doesn't always necessarily mean that things are going to be rolled out for you. And I think Shedeur felt he was entitled, one, because he had the name. It's not that Shedeur is not talented, he is. I believe he can do something in the NFL. But I think he messed himself over by thinking he was entitled, and that not taking the interview seriously enough, regardless of the team. 2, 3, not working out on pro day or the combine. You know, he had his own pro day along with his other teammates. They kind of made it a Colorado pro day. I think he made a mistake in that. Now, you didn't have to do all the things at the combine, but he still should have did some throwing at the combine, made yourself more marketable. He should have did something on pro day. You know, he should have did more like his teammates did, because he wasn't in the same class as Travis Hunter was. See, this is the thing. Travis Hunter doesn't have that name, didn't project himself as being entitled, went out and worked hard, did those things. He seemed very approachable and down to earth. And so he did all those things to where his draft stock didn't drop. Now, I don't think he did anything during the combine or pro day either. I think he did his own pro day as well. But again, he probably did well in the interviews. He's a much more personable person from what I see. Travis Hunter is much more personable, much more sociable, where Shedeur was much more, I'm not going to say antisocial, but he was much more withdrawn. And, you know, he just felt that, all the things that were happening to him would get him in. No. And again, I think his father messed him up first and foremost. I think he messed both his sons up, actually. And Shiloh, his other son, fired him and hired an agent, and then he was picked up by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a signee, as a free agent. So I think, I honestly think what messed up Shedeur and Shiloh was first Coach Prime. Coach Sanders messed them up first and foremost. He should have just let them earn it on their own. And I'm not saying he didn't, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's your boys, you're vested, you want to see them be successful, but sometimes we can hover, and sometimes we can do too much. And so and I even think Shedeur has got a new agent. I think he might have Travis's agent. And so or maybe he took Shiloh's, I can't remember. But anyways, so I think Shedeur messed himself up by giving the aura of entitlement. He thought he was the next best thing since sliced bread. It's not that he was a bad quarterback. He actually has good stats, and he has ability. He has talent. There's no argument in that. But is his attitude right? And I think that was the thing that got him, is that he didn't take some of these interviews seriously. And I think Shedeur even admitted that he didn't. And that was wrong. That was wrong. Because when you're trying to get drafted, it shouldn't matter Yeah, you might have preferences, but in the end, you're trying to get drafted. So you do your best for every team that interviews you, just like a regular job interview. Beggars can't be choosers, and going to the NFL is not a given. So he should have blew the interviews out the park, regardless of the team. But he didn't, and his dad didn't help him by making that comment that he wasn't going to allow Shedeur to just go to any old team, that there were certain teams he wasn't going to let him do. Well, he obviously had to eat his words. When you drop to the 5th round, you're going to eat your words. And I think it actually humbled Shedeur a little bit, because he was expecting to go in the 1st round because he thought he was just that good. And maybe athletically he is that good. But personality and attitude-wise, he wasn't, in my opinion. And I think he messed himself up. He messed himself up. And hence he dropped all the way to the 5th round because nobody was interested in him. Now, what the Browns did was kind of weird. I don't know why they did what they did. I don't know. I'm not sure why they did what they did. But he's going to have to compete. So Shedeur's going to have to prove that all that hype that followed him into the draft is worth the hype. Because in the end, if you really truly love football, if you weren't drafted or brought in as a free agent, would he have gone to the Canadian Football League or the USA or the Spring Football League? Would he have done it? Because at least then he'd be playing football. He'd still be getting paid. Not as much. And he lost a lot of money because he dropped to the 5th round because he was making more on NIL deals. So he's going to have to prove himself now. And I hope he does. I mean, I wish no ill will towards Shedeur. I'm not a Sanders hater by no stretch of the imagination. I'm not a fan of all the gaudy things that they do, or all them chains, big old fat humongous chains and all this other stuff. I'm definitely not a fan of that. But there's no doubt that Shedeur has talent, that Shiloh has talent, that Travis had talent, all the seniors had talent. Seniors or juniors that left to go into the draft. There's no doubt they have talent and ability, but it takes more than talent and ability sometimes. Sometimes you gotta be, you gotta have the right attitude. And as somebody has said, the NFL is looking, especially for quarterbacks, that truly love the game, that they're students of the game, because they are the leaders. And they don't expect that from any other position, but for the quarterback position, they expect leadership. And with leadership comes right attitude. Able to get your team, rile up your team and get your team rallied up. And that's what quarterbacks are supposed to do. They're leaders. And obviously Shedeur didn't show that in these interviews. And so these other teams just kicked him to the curb. And there's no doubt he probably would have been picked up in free agency if he didn't get drafted. But my question is would he have been humble enough if he didn't get drafted or didn't get picked up on free agency to go to the Canadian Football League or start the Canadian Football League or start in the Spring League? Would he have been humble enough to do that? Because they'd have picked him up for sure. And that'd have been a great proving ground to prove to people he knows how to play, and then they would have swiped him up and brought him in the NFL. NFL does it all the time. They get people from the Canadian Football League and the Spring League all the time. But he got drafted, fortunately for him, in the 5th round by one of the worst teams in the NFL. And, hopefully, he's going to have to fight for his job. There's 5 quarterbacks on the team. So he's going to have to fight for a spot. So we're going to see if Shedeur is as good as he's hyped to be. Whereas Shiloh, you didn't see a lot of him. He didn't have all that hype that Travis and Shedeur did. He just did what he was supposed to do. He got picked up on free agency by Tampa Bay. And of course he's got to fight for his spot too, I'm sure. But I just have this strange feeling that I think Shiloh's going to be okay. I think Shedeur will be too, but I think it's going to be more of a fight. And the reason why he slid down had nothing to do with race. I'm so sick of these people blaming racial issues on people sliding. No, it had nothing to do with race. Had absolutely zero to do with race. Had everything to do with the fact that, one, he may have been overhyped. Two, that, and I think it's come out that he said he didn't do that, didn't put his all in the interviews. That he didn't do well in most of those interviews. Three, that his father sabotaged him by saying he wasn't going to go to certain teams, so you already messed him over. So all these factors are the reason why he slid. And I hope he's much more humble now than he was before the draft. Because that's how you're going to be successful. And his dad should have told him that. His dad should know better. His dad should have said, you know what, it doesn't matter what team you get drafted, as long as you get drafted or picked up on free agency. Who cares what team it is? You go out there and do your best for whatever team pick you up. That's what he should have told him, but he didn't. And that's Coach Prime's fault, and he should know better. So in reality, a lot of the blame goes on him for not just telling his boys, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'd love for y'all to get drafted, and that would be awesome. But guess what? As long as you get picked up, who cares what team it is? I don't care if it's the worst team or the best team. It doesn't matter. You go in there and you make an impact. And you go and help make that team great. That's what he should have told him. Maybe that's what he's saying now because he had to eat his words. Coach Prime had to eat his words because he shouldn't have said something that stupid, because he should know better. Just because you're a Sanders doesn't mean you have any more privilege than anybody else in the draft. Yeah, everybody's going to have their biases and their preferences. We all do. But in the end, you should have approached every interview with the football team as it was your last interview, as that was the only team that wanted you. That's how you should have approached every interview. And he would have been drafted higher. People would have been like, okay, we know he has the ability, but he's got the right attitude. He's got the attitude we want in a brand new quarterback that could potentially become a franchise quarterback down the road. That's what we want to see in a young quarterback. We want to see positivity. We want to see the love for the game. We want to see leadership. That's what we want to see out of a quarterback. Not disinterest, not, looking like you're not even interested because you don't want to be on that team. No, that's not how you approach a job interview. And Coach Prime should know that. He's trying to make these guys into men, the ones that won't get drafted, the ones that won't get picked up on free agency, the ones that won't go have a football career after college. Isn't that what you tell them when they go to a job interview? Look good, smell good, make sure you groom right, dress well, and make sure that you impress whoever you're talking to. That's how you get it. That's how you do a job interview. Well, Shedeur should have took the same advice. If he even gave Shedeur that advice. Same with Shiloh. Same with Travis. If you're trying to build these people into men so they're successful after college, regardless if they go into football, then why would you not tell Shedeur to go out there and do the best interviews you can regardless of the team, because you don't know who's going to pick you up? I'm confused. Confused. And again, I'm not hating on Shedeur, Shiloh, and Coach Sanders, and none of them. They're all very talented, all great at what they do. Especially Coach Prime. He's a successful man. He knows success. He breeds success because he's worked his butt off. I respect that highly. And in most cases, people should take advice from him because he knows what he's talking about. But he failed Shedeur. He failed Shedeur in first saying that there are certain teams I'm not going to let you get drafted by or accept. No, you don't tell your son that. You tell your son you go out there, there, and go out there and knock their socks off, and whoever grabs you is going to be blessed to have you. And that's what we want to see out of a quarterback. Not disinterest, not, looking like you're not even interested because you don't want to be on that team. No, you don't tell your son you go out there and knock their socks off, and whoever grabs you is going to be blessed to have you. That way you don't have to eat your words after he gets picked in the 5th round by one of the worst teams in the NFL. It's like, oh, okay, I'm just grateful he got picked up. What? You should have said that from the get-go. You failed him. And if I were Pilar, I'd be mad. She probably is. They already have a rocky post-divorce relationship as it is anyways. And he tries to stay away from her. But you didn't give Shedeur the right advice. You should have told him, approach this like you would approach any job interview. Any job interview. Because guess what? Beggars can't be choosers. You're trying to get into the NFL. The NFL isn't trying to get you. You're trying to get with them. They don't need you. The NFL don't need Shedeur Sandees. They got plenty of talent in the NFL. What makes you different than any other quarterback in this draft? That's what should have been said. What makes you different than the number 1 pick, Cam Ward? What makes you better than him that we should pick you over him? Or any other of the quarterbacks? Because he was at the bottom, towards the bottom of the pick. They were like 5 or 6 picked ahead of him. And in reality, he's probably better than most all of them. But his attitude wasn't right. His attitude wasn't right. He wasn't humble. And that's why he slid to the 5th round. Not because he's black. That's stupid and idiotic. And all the people that, all the analysts on ESPN and Fox and all these other are stupid for saying it. You have no kind of doggone any type of research. You have no type of common sense. You have nothing. You just blame everything on race because he's black and most of the NFL executives are white. Really? Come on. Get over yourself. Get over yourself and actually do some research and do your homework and find out what the real cause was. Because maybe the real cause wasn't the executives, but the player himself. And I believe it was the player himself with the unfortunates of his father messing it up for him by that comment. But they don't want to blame Coach Sanders or Shedeur for anything. They want to blame the NFL executives and scouts and all the easy people to blame. And that's just lazy. And these sports analysts are lazy. They're lazy. They're lazy. Politicians do the same thing. They're no better than politicians. These analysts, they're no better than politicians. Very few analysts are actually do homework, actually do research, and actually try to stay middle of the road and actually try to get both sides of the argument. Very few. Very few. Just like politicians. They're no better than politicians. So in this instance, we'll just compare to politicians. And with analysts, they're all about the ratings and they're all about themselves and who can make the biggest splash and who can get the most followers on their YouTube pages or on their podcasts. They don't have a problem being controversial, regardless if it's truthful or factual. That's what most of these analysts are. They're a joke. So, that's why I'm not into sports. If I do watch sports, I definitely don't watch analysts. I just watch the sport for what it is and form my own opinion. And so I just think that a lot, the Shedeur Slide, as I'll call it, is mainly him. It is mainly his fault. Again, his father didn't help him, but it's mainly him. You're surrounded. You got this crew with you. You call yourself legendary, but yet you're picked in the 5th round. How legendary is being picked in the 5th round? Not too legendary. Now you may earn that title legendary in the NFL down the road, but right now you're just a rookie. You ain't even close to being legendary. You ain't played one NFL game. And you talking about some legendary. Yeah, you might have been legendary at Colorado and at Jackson State, but you ain't legendary in the NFL. You got to earn your spot in the NFL. You got to earn it. You know, these people were just tired of seeing the bravado and all the gaudiness, that all the stuff around them, and all the cameras and you know, and all this other stuff. You know, making millions off of NIL. You know, and you know, and again, thinking he's entitled. Thinking he's entitled. That's just my opinion. That's the way I looked at it when I would watch him on YouTube. That's the impression I got. Like I said, it had nothing to do with talent. You can see he has talent and athleticism. That's not the issue. The issue was his attitude and how you carry yourself. It was a huge difference between him and Travis, and it showed. And it showed. So, you know, I think it was on him. I think it was on him. I think he got nobody to blame but himself. And I hope he was humbled by the situation, and I hope he stays humble while he's at Cleveland. Because when you're humble, people will respect you. They'll be more apt to put up with mistakes because they know you're a humble person, and they'll be more apt to help you and see you succeed. Whereas if you got an ego and you think you're all that, people don't want nothing to do with you, especially if you don't live up to the hype. Shedeur's gonna have to live up to the hype. He's got to be legendary, and we're gonna see. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. And if we don't see it, he will hear it. And like I said, if he doesn't make it in the NFL, is he humble enough to go to the CFL or the Spring League? Is he humble enough to do that? Does he love football that much? Or does he only love football because he's got some talent and ability, but if he can't make it in the NFL, he's done? We'll see. And it's not that he can't be successful outside the NFL. I'm sure he can. He's a Sanders. So he's got that pedigree to where, you know, he can be successful doing something else. He likes to wear high fashion. Maybe he'll go do that. But I'm glad he got drafted. I'm glad Shiloh got picked up on free agency. I think most of the Colorado players that you know were trying to go pro got picked up either through the draft or free agency. I believe most of them, which is great for a school. Do I agree that they retired Travis's and Shedeur's number? No, I think that was inappropriate and a farce. I think it was very inappropriate. Cordell Stewart should have been retired. He took Colorado to 2 bowl games. I think they were national champs in one of his years. So really, you know, and I Coach Sanders was like, well, you know, I want to try to give them their flowers while they yet live. Well, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but they didn't deserve their numbers being retired. No. And I think Travis deserved it more than Shedeur did. But they didn't deserve that. There are other Colorado players whose names aren't up there that deserve it more than they do. Cordell Stewart being one of them. So I hope Coach Sanders does the right thing and go ahead and ask the ADs, hey, let's retire Cordell's number. That would be the right thing to do. That would be the right thing to do. So, like I said, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, it's just a lot of things that go on. I mean, there's obviously a lot of hype with Coach Sanders. But you know, it is what it is. I should have went around. My fault, y'all. You all know I'm driving home. I should have went around. Got these slow folks in front of me. But yeah. It's honestly, most of the blame goes on Shedeur. Again, my opinion. It definitely ain't got nothing to do with race. It ain't got nothing to do with no conspiracy theories, nothing like that. If you don't do well in your interviews and you exude an aura of entitlement and all this other stuff, folk ain't gonna want you. I don't care who you are. The thing that I think he understands now is that at least he got drafted, because Tom Brady got drafted in the 6th round. So it doesn't matter where you get drafted, just as long as you do. That means teams want you. And even if you don't get drafted, they pick you up on free agency, or they sign you, or as a signee, whatever you want to call it. At least they want you. That lets you know that somebody wants you enough to either draft you or sign you. And you should be excited by that, because then everything is in your hands. Then it's in your hands. Now you got to perform. You got to show these folks that you're worth being drafted or signed, because you're going to be taking somebody else's spot. You got to prove to your teammates that you're worth being on the team. It's just that simple. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how he does when camp starts and preseason, if they let him play, and see how he does. See how he does. We'll see how he does, but I'll leave it there. Obviously, I'm very appreciative of each and every one that views, and subscribes, and comments on my videos. I'm very appreciative. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, share it with somebody. If you think I got some decent content, then share it with somebody. Let somebody else listen to it. If you got any comments and suggestions, leave them down below. As always, be respectful. And I'll see y'all on the next time. God bless you.